Welcome to Leading the Next Generation with Tim Elmore, where our mission is to empower the emerging generations with skills to lead in real life. Hey, podcast listeners, Andrew here. I'm so excited because today on our podcast, we're actually going to be doing something a little bit different. We've interviewed thought leaders and amazing researchers, but today we're interviewing a student. Christa Campbell is a college student who we met years ago. She was a part of the Gwinnett Student Leadership Team, or GSLT. We've been honored to partner along with GSLT for many, many years. But Christa is now a college student, and she is thriving as a young leader. And you're going to find out quickly in this conversation between Tim and Christa that she is the living embodiment of servant leadership. I think you're going to be blown away by Christa's story. So without further ado, Tim, take it away.
Christa, thank you for coming into our recording here. And
Yeah,
it's fun to see you live.
Yes.
I've not seen you in a couple of years.
No, it has been a while, so
Yeah.
I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be back in Gwinnett County and here with my family and friends and the people who helped me grow into who I am today. So it's nice to be home for the summer.
And you're a rising junior at Boston University. That's
Yes,
that's
I
a
am.
great institution.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's really cool. When I went to college, I really wanted to be able to find myself and learn who I was, and so I feel really lucky that I got into BU and that I was able to go there because I knew it would be a place that I could explore and learn and grow, and so I'm really happy there, and I'm happy to be able to learn from all my experiences.
Sure, that's neat. Good. So I want to go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
We first met when you were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You were in Gwinnett County Public Schools,
Yes.
it's the largest school district in the state and one of the largest in the country.
Yeah.
Just got to talk to all the principals
Oh,
in
wow.
Gwinnett County. It was fun.
I guess I didn't know that.
Yeah, so GSLT is a program, Gwinnett Student Leadership Team. Talk about that. That was your first official entry
Yes.
into leadership. Talk about that.
Yeah, so GSLT is a really phenomenal organization. We interview our sophomore year, halfway through our sophomore year, and we get to learn from amazing teacher leaders and professionals such as yourself, where we learn about ourselves as leaders, but we also learn how to lead our community.
Yeah.
And so the main idea of GSLT is not just raising 3 students up from each class, from each school, but it's really about us taking the content and the knowledge we learn and bringing it back to our schools. So we were able to do these large leadership conferences within our school before COVID. I don't know what they're doing now because I've been there. We did it online, I think, my senior year. But we did, we had 1,000 students from our school come, and we taught them about leadership, and we taught them about all the things that we learned. And it's also kind of just the idea of bridging the gap between students and faculty at schools and in the community. So if our students are we really have a problem with this, or we really want to see this, how are the faculty supposed to know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not interacting with students every day. So, I mean, they are, but students aren't going to go
Not
up to
over
them
this.
and be this is what I don't like. So we're kind of that bridge. And so I was really fortunate for my principal and my teacher leaders to meet with us every week. And so we'd have weekly meetings, and I'd say, this is what I think would help our school. This is what I think people want to see. And so it was just a really cool opportunity to not only learn about myself as a leader, but also really help my school grow. And I just was Instagram stalking my school's GSLT team the other day, and I was like, they're just doing so phenomenal, and they're just making such a difference. So, GSLT is just a great opportunity, and I feel so incredibly fortunate to have gotten the chance to do it. My mom is actually a GSLT teacher leader at her school, and so I knew about it since I was little, and I was always I'm going to do this.
Yes.
This is I want to do this so bad. And so when it was time for me to interview in high school, obviously I was nervous, but then I was 10 times more nervous than I should have been, because I've been preparing for this my whole life. I mean, not actually, but I was
it felt that way.
Yes, I was like, I want to do this. My mom does it. It's super cool. And so when I got the opportunity to interview, I was super excited. And so it's just something I've been excited to do, and I feel beyond lucky to have gotten the opportunity.
What's neat about that to me is I see lots of school districts around the country public and private. And so often leadership isn't something that kids aspire to.
Yeah.
It's too much responsibility or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a inbred excitement and anticipation. I want to try out for this.
Yeah.
I want to, and you exhibited that.
Yeah.
Now, you got an unexpected leadership opportunity that you did not
Very
plan.
unexpected.
So in March of 2020,
Yeah.
we all remember where we were
Yeah.
and when it happened. We were sent home.
Yeah.
And that March, when we were all quarantined, at first it wasn't good for your heart, was it?
No.
Talk about,
Yeah.
just talk about you attitudinally. I know you
Yeah.
are very candid, but talk about
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah, so I was really struggling with my mental health, and I was struggling with having a purpose and all these things you kind of take for granted. You know what I mean? So I know everyone was in a really weird place when
Senior trip?
No, well, it was my junior year, but I
Oh,
still
junior
didn't
year,
get.
that's right.
Yeah, no junior prom. I didn't really get like senior prom was outside, like in the grass.
Yeah.
I was like, my heels are gonna get muddy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So it was just like it was a really weird place for everyone to be in. And so at the beginning, we were all like, oh, a couple weeks off. Like I bought a beehive. We were all doing things to keep us sane. But finally, I was like, this is not getting better. I'm not feeling better. I'm not a busybody. Like, all right, I am a busybody. So like just sitting around and doing nothing was just like horrible for me.
Yeah.
I felt like as much as I would be sleeping during this because I had nothing else to do, I just felt exhausted and drained. And I mean, it was a hard time for everyone, and so I knew I needed to do something to make me feel better. So yeah.
And was that something, the newspaper article that you read?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
talk about that.
Yeah, so I was just reading a newspaper article about this girl who started up a meal bridge in Atlanta, and I was like, this is really cool. So I like emailed her, and we had a phone call, and I was like, I think I want to do something like this in my community. Like, do you have any tips or tricks? And so she called me and she told me what she did, and I kind of took it and ran with it, and I was like, this is really cool. And so what it was the Meal Bridge program has people donate money to restaurants, and the restaurants prepare meals and donate those to the hospital. So it kind of helped three kind of stakeholders in this situation.
Yes, it was a win-win-win.
Yes, because the people who were donating the money were finally able to feel like they were doing something. The people who were cooking the meals were able to keep their jobs because obviously we weren't allowed to go out to restaurants or anything like that. And so they were able to keep their jobs, keep these local restaurants afloat. I tried to partner with really local, really Gwinnett County focused school or restaurants. And so I found some of them through events like Taste of Gwinnett, through GSLT that I worked on. But I also found some of them. I used to do performing arts in the community, so I found connections through that. And so I got connected with a couple restaurants, and it really just took off. People wanted to help, and the healthcare heroes needed the help. So it was a phenomenal thing, and it definitely lifted my spirit. And even just starting it made me feel so much more like I had something to do. I had something to work for. But it also I'm not a doctor. Like I can't go in and cure these people of COVID. You know, no one at that point.
That's
could.
right. Yeah.
So it gave me something to do that I was capable of doing, and it felt so phenomenal.
And that's the fourth win.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah, for
Your
me.
mental health was in
Yes,
better shape
yes.
when you were active and doing something meaningful.
Yeah.
We often talk about the term here at Growing Leaders, leaders solve problems and serve people. That's exactly what you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
so fun.
Yeah.
4 wins.
4
Love
wins,
it.
definitely.
Now, this particular healthcare facility had a special place in your
Yes.
heart. How come?
So our local hospital was the hospital I was born at. My brother was born at. It was the hospital my oldest brother went to when he had his lung pop and he needed to get surgery. It was where my middle brother went when he got a wrench stuck on his finger.
Oh, God.
So,
We're family.
yeah. So, it had given back so much
Yeah.
to my family and my community. And I also had family and friends who are healthcare workers and who were saying, in order to get all of our clothes off and wash our hands enough to get rid of COVID off of us, to go out and get lunch, it takes an hour, your lunch break is over. You know what I mean? And even healthcare employees were not really able to get their full breaks, and because they were a lot of them were sleeping in hospitals during the beginning of it. You know what I mean? And still for a year after, still probably now I think we're in a shortage, but I'm not as closely related with it. But so they needed support, and they needed as much community support as they could get. And so hearing those stories and knowing close people in my life that are talking about how hard it's been on everyone, it was very eye-opening.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to do something for my community. And when I found something I could do, I was like, let's get going.
It was
I started
just clear.
that day. Yep.
Yeah.
I made like 50 phone calls the first day. And then for the next couple weeks while I was getting everything organized, I was on the phone for like hours with people like Miss Ward, who she was giving me advice, but we talked for like 2 hours. I felt bad because she was like, I'm about to have dinner. And then we ended up talking for 2 hours. I was like, do you need to go to dinner? So I felt very lucky to have all that support. But
you could have said, Miss Ward, I know where to get food. I've been rounding it up.
Yeah. Some of the places were like, I'll give you a meal if you want to stop by. I was like, I don't need anything from you. I'm happy to help, and I'm happy that you're so willing to help. But these restaurants needed some sort of financial and they also wanted to help. So
no doubt,
really everyone just was like really excited to be a part of it. And one of the restaurants I partnered with, Universal Joint, they really took it and ran with it too, which was really awesome to see, because it made me realize that a lot of people wanted this. So when they started back up, when they were allowed to do like outdoor seating and stuff like that, people would round up $5 or something to donate to healthcare workers. And so they were one of our biggest donors. They took it and they were doing it themselves completely for a while, where they would get the money and take the meals over to the hospital. And I was just like watching it, which was really cool, because for the most part I was like picking up the meals, dropping the meals off, picking up the snacks, dropping the snacks off. But it was awesome that they were able to like kind of do that for us. So, yeah,
absolutely. Well, and what I've noticed over my lifetime, it sounds like you did this. Sometimes people just need permission. You were a permission giver. You were a teenager, not 45 or whatever, but you launched people into some, like you just said, they took off with it, but somebody needed to get the ball rolling. I heard this happened up in Nashville and other cities where high school students just made things happen.
Yeah.
You're just young enough to be idealistic and think maybe we could change this place, and you actually did. Now, I know less about the story than you do because you were in it. Did you get other high school students involved, and how so?
Yeah, so GSLT was really cool because it connected us with like a huge network of students all across the county. And so I was able to like reach out to people, and it was a little hard because nobody knew how to work Zoom at that point. And so we were doing our best, but they were able to like help give me recommendations of restaurants maybe over in that area of the county, or I think I ended up donating meals to other hospitals in the area, or snacks, like whatever. Somebody connected me with a medical center for low-income people. And so I was able to bring them a bunch of snacks and drinks, because, I mean, I'm sure it was especially hard on them because, you know, it was for low-income, like, communities. And so I got connected with those through the other students. So for the most part, I was doing, like, all the delivering and the coordinating, but it was nice to have that support of, like, other people in my community, like, here's a great idea for something you could use here, or, like really helping however we could, but we were all still trying to figure out how to work together without being in person. So,
well, and that was a challenge, like you just said, for all of us. I mean, you had to be looking up at full-grown adults going, you guys don't even know what you're doing at the time. Mask, no mask. Vaccine, no vaccine.
It was like ping pong. You were like,
it really was.
Because no one knew what was happening.
Well, what I love about you is you stepped out and you didn't have all the answers, but you had an idea. And I think that's where it really begins. And then it's about solving problems and serving people. And you collected people along the way.
I definitely think that, like, a lot of people are uncomfortable taking the first step, and I struggle with it all the time. Like, you're like, oh, even then I was like, oh, am I taking this girl's idea? No one cared. They just wanted to support and be uplifted and help. And so I had no clue how to get in touch with the hospital. Like, I had no, like, connections there, you know what I mean? I was like, how do I don't even, I think I just, like, sent the general hospital email and was like, this is something I want to do. And then I ended up having the coordinator's, like, phone number, and we would call and FaceTime, and she would be like, thanks for all the snacks. Like, here's all the snacks that we're eating today.
That's
like,
awesome.
So
that's really neat.
I think something I still am learning is how to just step into it and go without all the answers.
Yes, huge. Okay, so since that time, it's been about 3 years now. Leadership and leadership development has played a key role in your very sense of identity. I don't want to project that on you, but I see that in you. Talk about that. There's people listening now that are parents, educators, coaches, but everybody listening cares about the next generation. Talk about how that's unfolded for you.
Yeah, so through this opportunity, I really realized what leadership and service meant to me. I always just thought, like, this is great for my resume. It's great to help other people, but, like, it didn't feel like it was a part of me. You know what I mean? It felt like something I should do. Or
it's a duty.
Yes. But when you lose that opportunity and when you're, like, really faced with the inability to help, you're like, wow, this actually means a lot to me. You know what I mean? And so this opportunity was really awesome because it helped me realize it was a part of me. But it also helped me realize that it's important to be intentional with your service, like, and be intentional with what you want to do. And that's something I'm still learning now, and I'm sure everyone's learning, is kind of like what matters to you, what's important to you, like who you are. But I found that like it was the intentionalness of the project that is what made me feel like impactful, and so, like, going to a cleanup here or volunteering at an organization there is, like, awesome, but it doesn't feel, like, long lasting. And so this was, like, a really awesome opportunity that made me feel, like, fulfilled fully. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. So with the people listening here to you right now, educators, leaders, parents, coaches, what words of counsel or advice would you give them to create an environment where students like you are empowered? I feel like you just took the ball and ran with it because you read this article, but I know you've got a mom that's an educator, and you've got Miss Ward and others. Just talk about how educators can create an environment to spark people like you.
So my mom was phenomenal in raising, I mean, both my parents, but my mom is the definition of a servant leader, and I see it every day in her. And so she really inspired me. But I think also GCPS and GSLT does a great job of understanding that leaders aren't one size fits all. Like, leadership is not someone who can go up on a stage and make a speech. I can talk like this one-on-one any day, every day, but if you put me in front of 10 people, I'm so nervous, I'm sweating, I, like, freeze up. So, like, leadership is not just the person who can just talk, you know what I mean? And I think something I learned through GSLT is that leadership is so much more than that. And a lot of times those, like, leaders that are in charge of organizations, but they don't even know their employees, or those aren't truly, like, that's not true leadership. True leadership is, like, being one with the people you're leading. And so as a student leader, I didn't want to feel like, oh, I'm better than them. Like, they were my friends, they were my peers. And so, but I think understanding that leaders can be shy. Leaders can be introverted, but they're the ones, they can be the ones that push everyone from the back. And so I think just understanding that and not looking for leaders in the most talkative people.
In the classic sense,
right? Because I talk a lot, as you could probably tell. But my team, like, two of my team was, like, very shy, but they like ran. You know what I mean? They, like, sent the emails, got everything done, like, organized, and you need those kinds of leaders. And so I think. And something my mom also does with her students that really inspires me is, like, trying to understand the leader in everyone. And some people don't want to do leadership, and that's fine, but, like, understanding each student's strengths and understanding, like, where people are coming from and what they want and how they want to give to others is, like, so impactful. So not just looking for one student, but really giving your energy to everyone who, like, you think could use it. You know?
We have one of our Habitude images is called the gift factor, and it basically teaches there are different kinds of leaders. There's not one size fits all. And when you lead from your gift, if you're an introvert, you may not talk a lot. you'll just be pushing from the
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
If you're a talker, you'll probably be
You're making a
mobilizing a whole
speech.
bunch of
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
But it is true. You are a leader, and yet you don't want to necessarily be in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah, I would freak out.
But you've moved and you impacted
Yeah.
thousands, I think, if we counted them all up, by not only
Thank
what you
you.
did at your school, but by what you did for the healthcare facilities.
Thank you.
That is just so cool.
Thank you.
And I love the fact that you don't want to brag about it. I'm having to pull this out of you.
Thank you.
But that's even more winsome about
yeah.
you.
Yeah, I also I'm still learning now that like being humble is great, but it's also important to be able to share with others and
Yeah.
and because if people don't know your story, they might not like if
Yeah.
I didn't talk about the
Yes.
meal bridge, nobody would have donated.
That's
You
right.
know what I mean?
That's
so,
right.
I'm working on that. I'm trying
That's
to get
good.
better about being able to talk more about myself. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think the world of you.
Thank you.
Let me give you one last question. Any words or thoughts for the people listening that are working with students that you would give them from your angle, from your point of view?
Yeah, I guess it's just like really about authenticity for me. I was talking about like working on finding myself and who I am, and I think that really applies to leadership and service and doing stuff that inspires you. And so just the more authentic you can be with people, the better your relationships.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's hard, and that's something I'm learning, but I think just loving each other for who they are is really impactful. And yeah, that's what I care a lot about. So I try to be the most real me.
Yeah, you can be.
Yeah.
I love it. Krista, thanks for
Yes,
joining me
thank
today.
you.
This has been so fun, energizing for me, if nobody else.
Thank you.
So thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's
You
been
bet.
awesome. Thank you.
Wow, what an incredible conversation. If you enjoyed that like I did, I know you'll probably want to dig deeper. So if you want to find out more information about our guest today, check the show notes for more information about how you can stay in touch with what they're up to. Well, as always, if you would rate this podcast, give us 5 stars on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, we would greatly appreciate it. If you found this episode particularly helpful, share it with a friend. We would also appreciate that. If you want to stay connected with us online, we are at Growing Leaders and at Tim Elmore, pretty much everywhere you are. And then finally, if you have ideas for this podcast, maybe other people you think we should interview or subjects you think we should cover, shoot us an email. It's podcast@growingleaders.com. Thanks.